Lynette, you would not think if you met her that she was a particularly remarkable person if you didn't know her. I mean, she wasn't even a straight A student. She was good in school. I mean, she was active, but she wasn't particularly like an amazing athlete. She would never be on the cover of some fashion magazine for her fine 9-inch frame and high cheekbones. No, she was kind of short and just, she used to joke that somehow her sisters got all the hair gene and their hair grew like weeds and her hair took forever to even grow up past her collar. She always made fun of herself in that way, but despite anything you might say, she had this incredibly sunny disposition, full of joy, lived her life, be joyful always, praying continually and giving thanks in all circumstances. I watched her do it. It was like a testimony. It was like a legacy of her life. In all circumstances, you can give thanks, even if you're single for a long time like she was and waited till she was 33 years old to find the man that God wanted her to marry. Yeah, she did that. Give thanks even if your first teaching job in a Christian school pays wages that were barely enough to survive on. Yeah, she gave thanks in that. Give thanks even when your long-awaited pregnancy ends in miscarriage. I saw her give thanks in that. She served in a remote part of the Dominican Republic, and it was hard. The roads were rough and filled with potholes. You couldn't know if you were going to do dishes or not because you never knew when you'd have electricity or Wi-Fi. The water might be contaminated. House was dusty because the windows and doors were always open with all this stuff coming in and out. Security was tough. They had this concrete block wall surrounding their house with broken glass bottles as their kind of security, trying to protect them, and they just lived with constant financial pressure as a missionary, separated by miles from her family that she loved. She hated public speaking, but her husband didn't speak English very well in those days, and so when they went to visit churches on furlough, she was the one who got up to speak, and when she did, you know what those people saw? I saw it with my own eyes. They saw it too. They saw someone who was joyful always and thankful in her circumstances. I can't help but think of Carla's sister, Lynette Rivas, whenever I read this verse, because it was her life verse. She claimed it. She talked about it. She put it on her stationery, and she lived it. Lynette died suddenly when she was 38 on the mission field, and leaving behind her husband, Alberto, and a daughter, Abigail, who was 4 at the time, and Jonathan, who was just a few months old at the time, and a classroom full of kids that she loved and taught in a school and a mission work in mid-stride, and all of us she left behind just shell-shocked. She wasn't even sick. She just was gone in a moment. And at the memorial service, I searched for words to say, because we were obviously so sad and just felt this deep loss. But like Paul said, the people gathered there were people of such deep faith that they grieved, but not like people who didn't have hope. They had that big picture Paul was talking about. The lament was real and the hearts were sad, but as we thought about her life and about our hope and the ministry and the goodness of God, even in the difficulty, well, we remembered verses like weeping lasts for a night, but joy comes in the morning, and all these big picture things about how Jesus is stronger than death. It changes how you go about your ordinary everyday life, and we came to realize not only was that helping us in that moment of grief, it was how Lynette lived her life, and it makes so much sense now when I look back. Her favorite verse, give thanks in all circumstances. She lived it. And at her funeral, it made it a lot easier for us to do the same, even in our grief. We gave thanks for her and her life and her ministry and our Lord. I wonder, what kind of testimony is your life giving?